Okay. All right. Well, Brian is a Ylopo professor. He is a rock star team owner, managing teams in different states, a personal mentor of mine, a longtime Ylopo user. Howard, am I missing anything? I don't think so.
He's a, you're still a coach, right?
I am still a coach, yes.
Okay, tell us who you coach for.
I coach with Club Wealth Coaching Consulting. I've been a coached person since 2015. I've been a coach with them since 2016. Yeah, so good organization, and I've learned a lot from them. So,
are they going to continue to do their conference coming up next month?
You know, Howard, you and I were having that conversation earlier for those who weren't watching, and the answer is maybe. And I think that's the $1 million question for everybody is what's going to happen over the next 3-4 months. And I know that's not what we were planning, not what this Ylopo Summit is about, but I'll say this: we've been telling every single one of our clients to buy on bad news, sell on good news. It's bad news out there, guys. That means there's huge opportunities. I mean, I own a mortgage company as well, and we're locking stuff in the mid to low twos. So I don't know if anybody else is interested in borrowing money at I think I heard 2.75, so high twos, 2.75%. I don't even know what I need money for. I mean, there's a lot of things I need money for, but if someone give me $1 million at 2.75%, I'd sign on the line today because there's just a huge opportunity there. So, when you're having those discussions with your sellers and with your buyers, and, don't let everything has a spin to it. So if I'm sitting with a seller today and they're like, what about the coronavirus? Well, the good news is a lot of other people won't list their house, so you be the guy who's on the market. Whatever it is, let's make sure that we're having that conversation in a way that's beneficial. And I'm not suggesting we lie, but let's talk about some of the benefits of this downturn. Because
you can borrow, guys, if you can borrow money in the 2s and 3s, and you can go and make 8 to 12% in a real estate related investment, that's all free money. That VIG right there, right? The money you're borrowing, that interest rate isn't not even that, because that's going to be deductible on the real estate investment, right? So it's even less than that. And that's what me and my group are doing, borrowing money, super low rate, and then we're in that sort of 10% plus cash on cash multi-unit housing investments. So I think Brian, you're right, and to be able to educate not just agents but their clients about that. And I've been watching a lot of discussion boards and stuff, and a lot of people, as they see these massive gyrations in the stock market, are like, the hell with it, right? And they're going to be shifting to real estate investment as well. So really, really good for our community.
Yeah, and so the other thing I would say is start having those conversations with your clients before they're a week from closing. So just have the conversation, because if you think that people aren't talking about it, I mean, Howard and I have been on this thing for about 15 minutes, and it was literally the first thing that came out of my mouth. It wasn't the intent. I didn't log on and go, hey, I'm going to talk to Howard about this virus going on. That's not what it was, but it's in everybody's mind. So if you think your clients aren't thinking about it, all you're doing is putting your hands over your face and hoping and praying. Be proactive with these things. Have these discussions. Are you concerned about this? How do you think it'll affect the interest rate? How do you think it will make it easier or harder to find a house? Have those discussions, because if not, they're having them with themselves inside their own head without your information. So don't let that happen. It's a mistake.
Hey Barry, for me anyway, your screen is pretty small. Before, the PowerPoints have been much larger. I don't know if if he has a pointer or what, or maybe don't be in presenter mode. There you go. It's a little bit bigger. Can you go one bigger?
Let's try one more thing. Oops, I don't know what happened there.
So our tech guys having tech difficulties? That's how it always goes, isn't it? I've got a slide about that, Barry. Don't try and be a tech guy during a listening presentation. So it's in the slide deck.
Oh, really? That's funny. How's this, Howard?
We'll live with it. It's still a little small, but we'll live with it.
We'll live with it. Okay. All right. So enough coronavirus for this afternoon. Should we go and get started with this?
Let's do it.
All right. So, when Barry asked me about this, I wanted to start with, who are our leads, because each and every one of us deals with different leads. My guess is that if you look at this, some of this stuff will apply to you, and some of you out there going, hey, I've got other lead sources. I understand that, and I understand that it's out there, but these are some of the major things that we're doing for lead generation right now. You got your cold realities and your remind. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's basically what we're using to do circle prospecting. So circle prospecting is still a very powerful thing to do in 2020. And I would argue, talking to people all over the country, we're seeing inventory shortage. Barry, are you guys seeing inventory shortage there in Virginia?
Yeah.
So if you're seeing inventory shortage, cold realty is a great place to go. And I'm not saying that you have to spend hours and hours a day on the phone, but when you list a house, make sure you're circle prospecting around that house. And here's the thing, a lot of people are scared of circle prospecting. Circle prospecting is arguably one of the easiest phone calls you can make. Hey, this is Brian Curtis with Curtis Realty Group. I listed a house at 123 Main Street in your neighborhood. Just calling to let you know it's there in case you know anybody who's interested in moving in your neighborhood. By the way, do you have any neighbors you don't like who I should harass to, see if we can't get them to sell their house so you don't have to deal with them anymore? Make jokes like that, build rapport with people. But circle prospecting, no one's going to hang up on you for saying, I just want to let you know your neighbor had their house for sale. So don't be afraid to do that. If you're a wimp, and sometimes I've been a wimp, you can even slide dial that. When we do open houses, and we'll go into that a little bit later, we use cold realty to slide dial around those houses. So that's a great one. Obviously, we're doing a Ylopo seller thing today. So, Ylopo has a great seller lead program. Now, a lot of people have said, well, those aren't the greatest leads. And here's the thing. They are great leads. They're just not always right now leads. And, I think Barry has been one of the greatest people I've seen do this. And if you don't have this part in the script, whatever somebody says, whether they're 6, 12, 18, 24, 36, 5 years away, you know what? We've got a program for that. The majority of the people that we deal with fall into that category. Remember, just build some rapport and break some of those walls down. When someone says they're 12 months out and you say, great, what they're expecting you to say is, oh, crap, I need to hang up now because this person. So go, great. And again, I learned that from Barry. I watched him do that a lot. He's just like, yeah, that's what most of our clients are. It takes that wall down. And also, you've closed an objection that they thought they were going to get you to hang up immediately. Isn't that kind of where you're getting that from, Barry?
That's exactly right. I mean, the idea is to just, look at it from a different angle, right? I've never met anybody that's excited about selling their home. And so they're going to come up with their reasons to not discuss the subject for sure.
Absolutely. So Facebook home value leads, I'm sure a lot of you are using different things. There's different landing pages that come with all the different programs, whether you're using FirePoint or Sync or Boomtown or Curator. There's a million different platforms that Ylopo integrates with that can create Facebook seller leads. So, we'll talk a little bit about those, and those are great. I've got a whole section that I want to do on open houses because I feel like this might be a huge opportunity today with open houses to work with some other stuff. And then, of course, your SOI. This is what I want to say about SOI, and this is mistakes that I've made with SOI and referrals. I'm going to guess if anyone was really honest, they've probably done this. When you go and have a presentation, and I'll give Ben Kinney credit for this, and this really stuck in my head. He said, every single time myself or anybody on my team goes on a listing presentation, it's exactly the same. So what we're going to talk about here today, I really think that's important. And I've made the mistake of going on a referral appointment or an SOI appointment and walking in there, and about 3/4 of the way through it, them going, oh yeah, we're interviewing 3 other people. That changes my approach. We're not here grabbing a beer, having a good time anymore. Now I've got to sell you on why I'm the best out of those 4 people. So when you're going on those SOI appointments, do all this stuff. As a matter of fact, do more. If anything, when those easy ones come up, work twice as hard, because those are the things that are going to impress those people, and their sphere will start to, your sphere grows and grows and grows. So
it really does.
Yeah, and it's a mistake, and I'll be the first to admit I've done it. Just kind of show up, you're like shaking hands and BSing with people, and you want to sign this contract? No. So whatever you do it consistently, do it over and over again. So FSBOs and expireds, we got some great programs for that. And then one of the things I want people to realize, some of these referral sources, if you're not using these referral sources, please do. They're a great place to get leads from. But I will say this, if you're a home light, effective agent, agent referral, there's a bunch of other ones. Know that you are not the only agent going on that appointment. Understand that you're one of 3 more than likely. And the reality is the other 2 agents are probably pretty good agents, because they don't pick these cruddy agents. They want the people who have a high closing. They work straight commission just like us. So when you're looking at those, once again, this is why Ylopo is so important in my presentation, because it makes me different. And different, even if it's not better, and I think it is better, but different is really what's most important as you sit in front of somebody, because everyone's telling them about Zillow and Realtor.com and all that crap. Nobody cares. What are you going to do for me? So,
right.
Next slide, Barry.
Yeah. Excellent points. And I would add, with the homeowner collection aspect, something that I really like doing is getting a big chunk of contacts, Remind, Cole Realty, old homeowner leads, whatever, running ads to them and watching people act like they're interested in their home value. And as that happens, Raya engages, my agents engage, and it really allows you to kind of just observe who's behaving kind of interested in their home value, which everybody is, but maybe more interested. We regularly, every month, list a home from just that, just watching and waiting.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. One of the things that I would say is every single lead in your CRM, and they're going to vary from databases like mine of 50,000 plus to, people who have 300 or 400 people. It's okay. But every single person who's watching this has Ylopo, I'm assuming. So if you have Ylopo, get those people on that remarketing, because they're not necessarily screaming, come list me, but they are giving you things to talk about, right? My guess is you call those people and say, hey, Bob, based on your activity, thought maybe you might be interested in some of this stuff. So it gives us something to talk about instead of, hey, this is Brian, I want to list your house. So.
Right. Absolutely.
Cool. So, this was something I feel is really important. And, you and I chatted about this too, is, this right now versus nurture. The reality is that, I'll ask you this question, Barry. If somebody said, I can give you a list of, people that are interested in putting their house on the market in the next 30 days, how much would you pay per lead?
A lot,
right? So I would say that I would pay close to $2,000 a lead for people who said that they are, for a list of, for each one of those people who said that I'm going to list my house, not with me, but just I'm going to list my house. That's how valuable that is. The problem is as I don't know where to buy those leads. Do you?
Nope.
Sure I've been looking. I've literally been looking. I had a conversation with several very high tech people, and I said, if I can give you $1,000 to generate me a lead of someone who was willing to list a house right now, can you do it? I haven't been able to find anyone to do it. So what does that mean? That means that we have to go on a different approach. So, so often we're stuck with nurtures. It's okay. And this is what I really like to change mindset around. Nurture is better. I'm not saying it's not great to get that phone call from your client who sold their house, bought a house 3 years ago, and go, hey, Barry, come on over and list my house because I want to go find another one. Those calls are amazing, and I want every single one of them. But we also know that sometimes they don't do that. Sometimes they miss you. Sometimes we haven't remarketed to them enough. Sometimes they just were at an open house and the other agent was there and they listed the house for them. So we can't count on that necessarily as a consistent source of income, as a consistent way to list houses. So we've got to be focusing in 2020 on these nurtures. We've got to constantly be putting good content in front of them and constantly saying, hey, I'm still here. Hey, I'm still here. So here's my one piece of advice on this thing. Stop acting like they want to list their house, because they don't yet. And I think you said that earlier. No one wants to sell a house. That's not exciting. Buying a house is fun. Selling a house feels like torture. I got to move all my crap. I got to pack up. I got to keep my house clean every day. No one's excited about that. They're excited about their new house. So, as you have that, try and have a little bit of empathy towards the fact that nobody woke up this morning and said, I can't wait to get up and clean my house every day for a month while people come and look at it. So, you've got to just try and build rapport with people. When they're ready, they will, you'll build it. And that's what that's all about. So stop slapping those people.
Yeah. And, I think most of the time, the only person excited about the selling process is the agent that's getting the listing. And so we approach these conversations, as you've already appropriately mentioned, with excitement. And for most of these people, it's a scary subject. It's something that it's inconvenient, it's annoying, and everything in between. And so we need to kind of change the way that we're handling it. So those are some great points, Brian.
All right. All right, so let's look at the right now mindset. I mean, obviously, these people are relatively easy. They're looking for immediate help. They might be those referral systems, those home lights, effective agents, agent referral, and they're literally filling out a form that says, I want to sell my house right now. With those people in mind, definitely be aggressive with them. Go ahead and say, hey, what can I do to help? And it's okay. I can tell you that the majority of them are pretty simple. It's like, hey, this is Brian Curtis with Curtis Realty Group. Home Light asked me to reach out to you, and I just wanted to set an appointment to see when we might be able to come and take a look at your house, and we can, give you an idea of what we do. That's great. They're very receptive. And I would say that for the people that pick up the phone in that conversation, that we're getting probably a 90% appointment rate from those referral type sources. And those are fun. My biggest problem is well, there's two big problems. First of all, I got to write a check for 25% when I close. So there's that problem. But the other biggest problem is I don't have enough of them. So, I don't know that I've met anybody right now as good. My biggest problem is I have too many right now sellers and I can't go on enough appointments. No one's telling me that. If you are, please call me and I will help you solve that problem, because that's an easy one to solve. But, they're really looking to see what you're going to do, and we've talked about this at length, but understand in 2020, they have a different expectation than they did 10, 15, 20 years ago. I don't feel like we can walk in the house anymore and go, yeah, it's a great house. It's worth $300,000, sign here. And I know that it wasn't quite that bad, but we have to show them value. We have to say, we have to be different. We have to say, even with these guys that want to list their houses with us, because remember, they're interviewing 2 to 3 other agents. And if you think that they're not, they're either lying to you or they're an anomaly, because every piece of advice out there now says interview 2 or 3 agents. And everybody's going to go to Google and Google, what should I do to sell my house? I mean, that's it. I guess maybe there's people who don't, but for the most part, this is what we're looking at. So understand that mindset. They're looking to find out why you're different and why you're better, and walk into that presentation with that in mind. Why am I different? Why am I better? So.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I know we're going to go over this in a little bit, but I think this is a good moment to also mention that, from looking at value in marketing, when we do dive into what's currently called the seller report, but what we'll soon be calling is the listing presentation enhancement form, it's going to have a list of buyers on it.
Yeah.
And so I'm, again, I know you're going to go over it in a little bit, but especially with the right nows, man, they're thrilled with that document. Wouldn't you agree, Brian?
That is literally one of my favorite pieces of paper. Like that thing is 5 pages long, that seller report. And if I had to pick a page if Brian, you're only allowed to take 1 page, that's the page I take. And I'll go over why. And I think mine, I'm going to use my memory, which isn't as good as it used to be, but I think I had 627 people that fit the criteria of the example house that I picked. So that's powerful. And I understand that, not everyone's going to have 627 people, because I do have a pretty large database. But if you walk in there and you have 15 people, that's great, because the last guy didn't bring 15 people who might be interested in their house. Nope. So, right. That one piece of technology, I talk to a lot of people and they say, what's your favorite thing about Ylopo? And I'm like, there's a long list, but I can tell you one of the things that I love is the ability to set that in front of a seller and go, this is the very first thing I'm going to do is contact these people. How's that sound? So, yeah.
Very different. Very different.
All right. So nurtures, to me, I think, and I would hate to say it's the future of real estate, because theoretically we should have been doing this for 50 years. But in a lot of ways, the way I feel like what happened was in 2010, which is really the advent of maybe 2008, Howard's watching. He's like, hey, I had Tiger leads before that. But before the real estate leads were mainstream, Zillow sold their first lead in 2010. And ever since then, I feel like we've started to go wide instead of deep. And I don't know how you feel about that, but it's like I can buy leads so inexpensively, 10, 15, $20, that I'm just going to buy a whole bunch of them, call them. And then if they don't like what I've got to say, I'll just buy 100 more and go call them. And that does work. It's a horrible way to run a business, but it does work to some extent. You'll end up with a gigantic database that's just a mess. But my point is that start thinking about these people as people instead of leads, assuming, of course, they have a good phone number and a good email address, and build a relationship. Here's our goal for the agents on our team. On the sell side, I want every agent who's a listing agent on my team to have 200 leads in their CRM that they've had a conversation with, and that person says that they're going to sell a house in the next 12 to 24 months. And if you think about that, if you have a database that only has 200 people in it and you've had a conversation with every single one of them and they've said that, so half of them lied, I'm down to 100. Half of them worked with somebody else, I'm down to 50. 50 listings in a year is a pretty good year for most people. And that's just with 200. Yeah. By the way, that's assuming I'm never putting any more leads in. And I am every single day, constantly top grading that. But when you have that nurture mindset, you know, one of my favorite clients of all time is a guy named John Donald. And I called John 12 weeks in a row on Monday at 3 p.m. I remember that. In week 6, the conversation went like this: John, Brian Curtis calling for your weekly harassment. And he laughed and I laughed and we went back and forth. Week 12, it was, hey, John, calling you for your weekly harassment. He said, you know, Brian, Dawn, his wife, wants you to come over and list our house today. And I walked in there. I did a listing presentation, but I didn't have to because I had talked to that guy 12 weeks in a row. That is what nurture is. And it didn't start out that way. It didn't start out as, please come list my house. He was just a nice guy. And he kept saying, call me back next week. So I just put him in there every single week. That's nurture. And I wish I had thousands of those stories. I don't, but I have some. But that's what nurture is, because you're building a relationship. You know, write this down. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So, you know, to walk in, you know, and slam somebody, that works. Barry's done it. I've done it. I've closed hard and gotten a listing. But you know what? Sometimes that doesn't work. Building a relationship almost always works.
So, you know, when I pop on the screen, Barry's like, oh, shoot.
Uh-oh. No, I love it.
Howard interruption. So, you know, a couple of things. First off, and we say it every single time we get together, online or live, but it has to be said. Literally half of your buyers, at least, have a home to sell. And the first thing that someone does before they even think about who's listing their home is what?
They're going to go look online and see what they can buy.
What can I buy?
Right. I don't want to sell my home and move into a piece of crap.
Yeah, I'm not like going to be on the street, right? I want to know, like, what are my options? Maybe my options are so bad, I'm going to stay where I am, right? But they're going to put their toe in the water, right? So when we went through the whole sort of lead nurture thing and the conversation and the questions, you know, Barry, let's add that to that sheet. In addition to I love that. Is someone in your family or friends a lender? It's great. But also, you know, are you going to need to sell a home or your home before you buy? There is no one on your team that should ever ask that question. That's the world's greatest seller lead, because you're in front of them before they are even thinking about interviewing listing agents, right? That's number one. Now, Brian, as you're talking about what is nurture, I would challenge you a little bit, and then I challenged Barry earlier, so don't be offended, right?
I'm offended.
I would challenge you a little bit that it's like, oh, I've got to call this one lead 12 times, right? And keep calling them. Remember the concept of triage, right? Triage is, who do we focus on? Who do we focus on? Nurture is, you know, what's the difference between Ylopo and Tiger Lead? What's the difference between Ylopo and Zillow or Realtor.com? We are under the hood, G is under the hood, Barry's under the hood, and trying to develop automated nurture technology, allow our clients to triage, focus on, and I'm a broken record, but don't have to focus on every single lead. Because if you tell your team, like, I want you to call every single lead 12 times, guess what? They're gonna stop. You're gonna stop. They're gonna stop. Everyone's gonna be disappointed. It's too hard. You're gonna have burnout, right? But if you can build your database over time, this will segue into the next, webinar. If you can build your database to a decent enough size as a denominator, the numerator will be tons of priority alerts. and tons of Raya conversations and tons of behavioral textings, right? It's that numerator that you need to focus on. The nurture is happening now. This is the difference, Brian. You know, yeah, we were generating leads back in the day at Tiger in 2007, but we didn't have all this incredible technology that Gene and his team have developed. Like it was call these people 12 times and call text, email, right? All that. But now we have technology. We've got Raya, and we've got dynamic listing alerts, and we have dynamic remarketing that is bringing them back, causing higher level home search behavior, and guys, we're like, you know, Brian, let's come back, and Barry, let's come back. Once we've got the HomeBot integration done, which we're not that far away from, we'll change the game of the seller lead nurture, you know, as well. But again, why did we invest in that relationship? Why did we invest in that technology? So we can have tech that does the nurture for you to get you to the point of a higher level interaction and conversation. And if you can get yourself and your team focused on that higher level numerator, you're not going to get burnt out, right? And you're going to have a higher percentage of conversations happening.
Yeah.
Again,
yeah.
No, that's it.
I was going to piggyback on that. So that story I told, those were fun conversations. That's kind of my point. So what you guys are doing is getting to the point where the guy says, you know what, I think I might be interested in you. I might be interested in you. And then we do have to follow it up, you know? And again, those are easy conversations because why? I've showed up in front of them 27 times on their Facebook page because I've driven them, I've given them, you know, ads to look at. They come back to our website. I'm bringing them value from that Ylopo thing. And when I actually have a conversation, they're impressed with me before I even open my mouth. And that's because of the technology. And, you know, if you're not talking about some of this technology during your listing presentation, and we're going to go into that a little bit, it's a mistake. Like I tell every single person that my leads get followed up with within minutes. And even if I'm not available, somebody else is going to follow up with them, and a computer will follow up with them. We actually have a bot that follows up with them. And I actually show an actual Raya conversation that's converted a buyer. Who am I showing that to? A seller. Because the reality is, what's one of the biggest complaints that sellers give us? Oh, that person never even called that lead. Or I called the sign, I became a lead for my own house and no one even contacted me. That will never happen with Ylopo. The worst case scenario is Raya takes over. And by the way, that's a pretty darn good worst case scenario.
Yeah, and if you like Brian, if you have a really big database, you can walk into that listing presentation and you can show them, I do have 562 people looking in this neighborhood for this type of house, right? But most of the people on the call don't have a huge database.
Right.
So, you know, spin, a little bit of spin is okay.
Yeah.
Can be, you don't have to say that you have 562 people looking for this exact type of house in this neighborhood. You can say, I've got 562 people looking for homes on my home search site. Now we know it's all over the place in price range, it's all over town, but the seller's not going to care about that. They're going to say like, oh, wow, this person has this honeypot, right? Where all these buyers are coming and the other agent didn't have that. And this person has Diva Listing Rocket. Like you got to talk about Diva Listing Rocket and say, and literally tell the seller, anyone else you talk to is going to put your house in the MLS and wait for the phone to ring. Not me. Okay. Of course we're going to put your house in the MLS, but I'm going to spend my own money, right? They don't even know how much because it's actually pretty cost effective. I'm going to spend my own money and I'm going to get a video of your house all over social media all the time. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And I'm going to, and look, here's the last time I did it for, and you show them a listing rocket that you ran. And they're like, okay, I'm in, I'm using you.
Absolutely. And we're going to cover Diva a little bit into this, but yeah, it's such a powerful tool because I think in a market that I have pretty decent presence in, I think there might be one, maybe two people doing anything with video, and a couple other Ylopo people are doing video as well because they're using Diva, but I'm just talking about outside of that. You know, I'm in a market with 3,500 agents and 3 of us are doing video. So again, different is better, and good different is even better than that. So we have a high quality, product here, and we're different. It's such a differentiator. And you got to remember that these sellers, today have more information than anybody ever thought of having 10 years ago. So you've got to show some kind of value when you're sitting in front of those people. So anyway, let's move on to the next slide, if you don't mind, Barry, or where are we at? I got sidetracked. So where are we at? Uh-oh.
Brian, can you see the screen share?
I can't, but that's okay. I can wing it.
Barry?
All right. I believe we're on Ylopo and home value leads. Is that accurate?
Barry, we can't hear you.
Barry's gone dead.
Sorry.
There you go.
You know, I've been joking G for years for that happening to him, and it just happened to me. So, all right, there you go.
There you go. Awesome.
Thank you, Barry. Thanks, Barry.
All right.
So,
yeah, so here's the thing, we're going to talk about a Ylopo lead or any of these Facebook leads that come in. And I wanted to just kind of talk real quick about some things that has really worked very well for me. So the number one thing that, we want to do is, again, not put them in a situation where we're asking them, hey, you filled out this form. Do you want to sell your house? I'm not saying we can't ask that question a little bit later down the road, but I actually send out this initial context. Please rate your house on a scale of 1 to 10. And it's a really powerful tool. And if you watch my text messages when we're running these ads, it's funny. People are like, you're really getting weird text with just numbers in them. So literally, I'll get a text that says 6, 8, 9, 5, whatever it is. And it's great because now in my head, this is a person I can call. Hey, Barry, you just sent me this thing and you said that your house is a 10. I'm going to put together a report. And I'd love to give you a call in a few minutes. Out of curiosity, why is your house a 7? Why is your house an 8? Why is your house a 20? Whatever that number is. Because here's the thing. People don't want to talk about you. They don't want to hear about you. They don't care about you. But what they really do like to talk about is themselves, right? What's everybody's favorite topic? Themselves. So, if you call somebody up and ask them, hey, you said your house was a 7. Out of curiosity, what makes it a 7? I can tell you right now, as long as you've got a regular, decent human being on there, most of the time they'll start telling you all kinds of stuff, more stuff than you usually want to know. But remember, if that seller's talking, you're building rapport. You don't necessarily have to be talking. You don't have to give them brilliant insights. If they're talking about their kitchens and their bathrooms and their bedrooms, you're winning. And you know what? You can ask them. So it's a 7. Have you done any upgrades to the house? Oh, it's a 5. Okay, so you haven't done any upgrades. Are you considering doing any upgrades? And all you're doing is asking them questions for them to talk about their favorite subject. It's them. They're their favorite subject. Almost every single human being's favorite subject is themselves. There's exceptions, but you understand what I'm getting at. So this is a great way to communicate with people. And you can do it via text if you're a texter, and you can do it I'm more of a, hey, why don't I call the people? I'll still text if I can, but my goal is always to get somebody on the phone. One of the things that I meant to piggyback on what Howard said is, to me, the purpose of having great technology is not to replace those conversations. It's to make the conversations easier, and it's to figure out who to have the conversations with. So that's that. That's
so good. And I just took a screenshot of this because this is a great way to start the conversation with a homeowner. Please rate your home on a scale of 1 to 10. As Howard would say, this is one of those pearls. Very, very insightful. So all of it's been good, Brian, but I
appreciate that.
Just want to highlight it.
All right. So other things that we're doing with these people, I can tell you right now, if you're doing home val leads, there's a real good possibility you're going to get some bad phone numbers. You're going to get some, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to get some no phone numbers. So we're using a program right now to do some seller leads, and we're getting about 30% phone numbers. So which means we're getting about 70% non-phone numbers. So what are we doing? So we've really started focusing on BombBomb and BombBomb videos. And Barry, it's up to you, but I'm happy to share this, share our BombBomb video campaign with you that we're using for home val leads. And if you want to share it with everybody else, then feel free.
Oh man.
So
yes, please do. Yeah.
And here's the thing that we're doing. So when we built this, and I'll give Eric credit, Eric Eby, who is actually my main listing agent on our team, and he does 90% of our listings. And him and I sat down and did this. And, what we're trying to think, and this is a little Gary V-ish, it's jab, 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 left hook. We want to give. So, when we've got these things, the very first one of those, intros what HomeBot is. And I know that the HomeBot integration is this close. You and I chatted the other day, but once that HomeBot integration comes in, you guys are going to be super excited. Those of you who haven't used it, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I went out and spent the money to get it right now because I didn't want to wait. But I'm going to plug what Ylopo is doing. They are going to save me half the work once they get that integration done. So I was literally out trying to figure out how to pay a developer to get these things in because HomeBot currently is kind of manual. And so, Barry and G and the team are really going to do us a real solid by putting that together. And I didn't put any pressure on Barry with that at all. So he really appreciated that. So
no, it's good. It's good.
But, these videos, 9 steps to being a FSBO. Tell people how to be a for sale by owner. You know what? It'll confuse them. It's a pattern interrupt. We send them, it really is. Like what real estate agent is saying, do you want to know how to sell your house without me? It's a pattern interrupt. And people are like, well, okay, this guy's strange, but he's different, Home staging. We tell people how to do home staging. We set up some information about a hot market, and then we just do a kind of a follow-up. We're actually going to grow this to about 12 months. Currently, we don't. I will say this. I'm a big fan, and I don't know how you feel about it, Barry, but I'm a big fan of mixing in old school with new school. So this isn't our entire campaign. We also actually send them a handwritten note, which, so we generate somewhere in the range of 150 home val leads a month, and we send out 150 handwritten notes every month. I will have to say I also have a handwriting machine that makes it a little bit easier, but nonetheless, that's that technology part coming back in. But, we're sending that out and it's included. So, we believe in the air, land, and sea model. Ultimately, you got to remember when this person becomes a home val lead, a Ylopo home val lead, the seller, whatever you want to call that, realistically, they're probably, in your experience, 12 to 24 months out, right? Does that seem reasonable?
Yep.
So
yeah.
The idea is bombard them with your value over time. And if you're an agent who's planning on being out of the business in 12 months, don't do this. If you're someone who's going to be in here 12, 24, 36, I mean, I'm doing this until they kick me out. That's basically what I got. So, long-term nurture doesn't scare me because 6 months from now, I got a whole bunch of deals that are going to close. And 6 months after that, it's constant doing. And that's the one thing we didn't say. If you're going to do home val leads, and I think Ylopo home val leads are worth doing, make sure that you have a 12-month plan on it because it's not a 2-week process. No one woke up this morning and said, honey, I want to sell my house. I better log on to Facebook and see if Barry Jenkins ran an ad so he can tell me the value of my house. That's never happened. So understand that these people did not have that intent. What we had is good marketing in front of them, and they're like, oh, that's cool. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no. Well, yeah. And what I love about this is you're coming from a place of trying to add value. And I can tell you my most successful campaign to date with expireds and FSBOs is helping people sell their home or teaching them how to sell their home and things I think they did wrong. And it's so different than what everybody else is saying. And the truth of the matter is most people don't want to do all the things that are necessary to sell their home. Now, if you're in a super tight inventory market, obviously that's a little bit of a different scenario, but you can come from contribution, actually help people. And I would say that HomeBot really does make that a lot easier. I know we'll go over the dynamic videos soon in this, but this is also another reason why the branding videos for Diva for Ylopo users, the section here on the BombBomb video and staying in front of them, it is an amazing support to everything else that you're doing. Like Brian said, the land, air, and sea model, just making sure that you're everywhere. And I'm not kidding. I mean, literally this morning on the huddle, one of my agents said, Barry, one of the Cole Realty contacts contacted us and said, for the last 3 months, you've been engaging us and we're just blown away and we know you'll sell our house. That has happened a lot. It's a really good house.
Let me ask you this real quick, Barry. That Cole Realty lead, how much effort did you physically put into it? Or did you just plug them into the system and let them go?
Yeah, I uploaded them and I did nothing. And then we monitored AI engaged and priority alerts. That's all we did.
So that's the biggest thing I see people not doing. They do step one, which is to put them into the system, and then they don't monitor them. And, as somebody I've struggled with some of this stuff too, and this is something that you guys need to look at is am I looking, if you have a pond, am I making sure I'm staying on top of those? If you have a seller pond, you know, there's different CRMs. We don't have the time to go over all the different CRMs that integrate with Ylopo during this thing. But if you have a pond, make sure someone's monitoring that. You get a lot of hand raisers in there, and if you're not monitoring it, you did step one, but you didn't do step two. So make sure that you're doing that, because they will raise their hand because we're constantly showing up in front of them.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about it, especially with the subject of homeowners. If you don't have your database organized really well, you're just not going to see the opportunities. And so we do have to level up to be able to see these things, as you've already noted. But I can tell you from experience, because so many aren't doing this, it makes it that much more impactful, honestly. So.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Has anyone ever told you this, Barry? The reason I worked with you is because you called me back, or the reason I worked with you is because I answered my phone. This is the modern day equivalent of that. The reason I worked with you is because you stayed on top of me, because you interacted with me in times that it made sense. They may not know it, but that's the reason that they're doing it. At least these home value leads. So anyway, we don't go too far over. Let's look at the next slide. So FSBOs for me are one of the biggest opportunities that we have in this current market. And the reason being is because everyone is talking about the inventory shortage. Like, I didn't know, but I was looking through the chat, and yeah, low inventory. So that is not unique to my market, not unique to yours. So it's all over the country. I know one thing about every single FSBO: they want to sell their house. And I know that seems silly, but understand, why do we work FSBOs? Because at least they raised their hand and said, I want to sell my house. So my approach, and I'll be honest, I had developed this back in 2006, and I've modernized it with things like Ylopo. But the truth of the matter is this is a concept that I introduced years ago, and I called FSBOs up and said, hey, I'd love to come over and take a look at your house. I've got a database and now I say I've got a database of thousands of people who potentially might be interested in your house, and I'd love to come take a look at it in case I have a buyer who might be interested. That's my entire script to get in there. And I'll say this: if you're telling somebody that you have a buyer and you don't, stop. There is no reason to lie to get a FSBO appointment. The script that I just gave you, you can make probably 80 to 90% FSBO appointments with that. And the guy who won't let you come over and look at his house, he's a jerk. You don't want to work with him anyway. It's a very simple script. I've got buyers. We have limited inventory. I want to come look at your house. Great. No, almost no one tells you no. You walk into that room, you walk through their house, you do exactly what you say. You take notes, pay attention, build rapport with that seller. And then here's the thing that you do that's super cool. You ask them this: you know, Barry, I've got about 10 minutes before I need to go to my next appointment. Would you be interested in me showing you what I do to sell houses? And the reason being is potentially you could steal some of those ideas and use them for yourself. And when people ask, and sometimes they just go yes, sometimes they'll say, well, why would you want to do that? Here's a strange sales approach that a lot of people aren't using. You tell the truth. And the truth is, I want to be the agent that you go to if you decide not to sell it for sale by owner. If you decide you want to list your house, I want to be the guy. That's it. It's no tricks. There's no mystery. There's nothing else. And you know what? People respect the truth. And especially when the truth is a win-win. So other things that I'm doing with that, after I go through all my marketing, I'm going to show them a Diva ad. I'm going to show them a seller report. I'm going to go through all the same things I'm going to go through with the other people. Like I said, I do it relatively quickly. I'm really looking for a feeling, a little bit of overwhelm. Like, they look at it and go, I can't do a Diva ad. I can't, run Craigslist every single day. I can't do all these things. And so they're like, well, okay, yeah. I also have a B program, and I'll tell you guys about that real quick. And it really is this. I offer to advertise their house with Diva. I offer to put a sign in their yard, answer the phone calls, run their house on Craigslist, put a lockbox on their house, and do open houses for them. And that's our FSBO program. We will literally do all of this for you. And here's the best part about it. About half the time that they let you do this, they'll let you keep the 3% from the buyer you generated from the ad that you ran on their house that you weren't even allowed to run before. So you can literally get paid for that. Now, I will say this. If somebody says to me, well, if someone goes, well, I'm not going to pay you for a lead that came from my sign. No problem. I'll tell you what, if that happens, I'll just give you that lead. If someone wants to buy your house, I'll step out of it. Why? Because I've got 9 other people I can go show a house to. And this is a very, very, very great buyer lead generation from a seller. Because here's the thing. Do you ever feel like people don't like to talk to agents, Barry?
Yeah.
That wasn't a stretch. That wasn't meant to be a trick question, because it's not. But here's why this is such a very powerful tool. People are not afraid to call for sale by owner. They don't know that it's going to be me or Barry that they're going to talk to. They're thinking they're going to talk to the owner of the house, and the owner of the house doesn't scare them. The owner of the house isn't a salesperson. The owner of the house isn't going to talk them into anything. So this program right here, I bet you the first 3 years that I was in real estate, I sold more houses than anything else with this. And that was before I had this cool technology, before I had Raya to follow up, before I had Diva ads, before I had listing reports. And we can show them so much value that if the house doesn't sell, of course they're going to call us. So I don't know what your thoughts are.
Well, it's in a hot market. This is incredible because people are going to be compelled to try to sell their home on their own. And if you can be the facilitator of communication, that is a great source of buyer leads. So again, another very unique and helpful tip for sure. This is the next slide. I don't know if you can see it, but it's on open house.
I can see it now. So, Barry and I talked about some other stuff about this too, but when people go into open houses, I mean, realistically, if you're going to go to open houses this weekend, remember this, they're not just going to go to yours. So that means that they're probably going to meet 5, 6, 7, 10 other agents. So use this opportunity to separate yourself. I don't know if Howard disagrees with my number, and my number may be wrong. Every statistic is made up. Isn't there some kind of thing like that? 97% of all statistics are made up, or some kind of crap like that. So I don't know. If Howard's numbers,
the old saying is statistics, damn lies, and statistics.
There you go. So, but if my number is right, great. If Howard's number is right, it's even better. But, so basically look at it. About half the people who walk into your open house are interviewing you to be their agent. And that's not the way most people think about open houses. If you ask the average agent, Barry, what do they say about open houses? I'm doing them because my seller wants me to. Maybe I'll get some buyer leads. Flip this thing on its head. Start using open houses as seller lead generation. And here's the thing, send people seller reports when they leave, get information about their house, put them on a home bot, all this stuff. They don't know they're a lead. They just became a lead to be a seller. Even if they don't tell you they have a house to sell, there's a chance they own a house. Get their address, send this information to them, and then let the system kick in. That's the beauty of the Ylopo open house tool. I don't have to worry about all this stuff. I set it up on a plan and it just happens. Why? Because they put their information in it, went to the CRM, the plan took over. I'm still at the open house. I look like a hero.
Well,
yeah, no, you really do.
In a decade, I've never heard that, guys, I'm not sure I agree with the number 50%, but I don't care if it's 25%. 1 out of 4 people that come into an open house are sizing you up as a potential listing agent. Like, I've never, ever heard that before. Barry, have you heard that?
Yeah, because they know the area, and there are a lot of nosy neighbors. So yes, that would represent a good section of the visitors. They're people that aren't looking at buying that house. They're just being nosy for their neighbor, and they know they're going to be selling their house sooner rather than later.
That's amazing, because if I walked into an open house up where I own a ski home, and I just said, "Oh, I'm just a neighbor," and then they didn't pay attention to me at all. That was it. All I had to say was I was a neighbor, and they never paid attention to me, which is crazy because I'm in a 7-figure ski home, and I guess they could have eventually, got to know me, talked to me, because they said, look, if you're ever thinking about selling or getting a value home, or what's your plan, all that kind of stuff. I could have been the world's greatest seller lead, 1 block away. That's really interesting. Really good stuff, guys.
So, so many people don't think about it that way, and this is not Ylopo-ish, but it is. I can tell you right now, if between the corner of the street that you turn on and the house, if you don't have 10 signs, assuming there's enough room between the corner that you turn onto that street and that actual house, you're messing up. Because you got to remember this: the last time somebody sold a house on that street, there was 2 signs. There was one on the corner and one in the front yard. You put out 10 signs, And that person's going to walk in there and go, man, you really market. Again, think about this. And even if 10% of the people who walk in there are sellers, who cares? How many sellers do you want to get from every open house? If I got one seller from every open house that I did, I bet you my business would get just slightly better than it is right now.
Well, and you know, just to kind of put a bow on this, in my mind, one of the great things about holding an open house is it gives you the opportunity to be relevant to the community. And so, you know, you get them to register with the open house tool. Now you've captured them as a buyer. In the course of conversation, you find out they live in the area. And with HomeBot, it's a really easy segue into, I've got this really great tool that can show you some different mortgage programs. I'm not in the mortgage business. I just like helping. And then also it all shows you how to, the different rental rates for Airbnbs in our market, and specifically your home and how much you could make and all that good stuff. If you want, I'll just grab your address and send it over to you. And then you add them to HomeBot. I mean, that's just a killer way to segue into everything else that you're doing.
And if I'm impressing people that are coming into my open house, like I could be like every other agent in the universe and have a sign-up sheet. Like I literally, I kid you not that I will ever be able to afford it, but I went to a $14.9 million open house, $14.9 million open house. I almost posted into the YSC from it, but I didn't do it, out in Brentwood. And it's like not real. I mean, it's a gorgeous home, but like anywhere else in the country, that's a $1 million home maybe. But it was a sign-up sheet. It was just like a sign-up sheet. And and there was only one agent, and you didn't have like a team member there. And there were like a lot of people at this place. We went only because my friends actually built the home, right? They're home builders. So I didn't go because I was shopping a $15 million home. But, you know, imagine you actually go and do an open house and you have a nice iPad that's on a nice stand, right? And one of the neighbors goes in and sees that you're a little different. You're a little bit more tech savvy than all the other agents with just the little handwritten sign-up sheet that's completely blank.
Exactly. Or filled in with names they know aren't right because there's no way there's been 13 people in the first 5 minutes of the open house. So.
And there are, you can get $100 Android tablets and $10 a month prepaid data cards. You don't have to buy the best tablet to do this. You know, there's a way to do it to where you can dispense them among your team. And, you know, basically what Brian is showing us, and it's really coming alive in front of me, is very unique ways to reach the consumer using the Ylopo tools that are at all of our disposal. So such good content, man. I'm honestly kind of surprised.
Integration, that's coming. It's going to take everything to the next level, like on the seller side, and we'll do entire webinars just on HomeBot integration and how to use that to take your seller business to the next level.
All right. So, hey, and you guys tell me, we've got 4 minutes. Do I have 4 minutes, or do we want to go a little bit over?
You got it.
You can go over.
Okay. That's okay. And again, I'm happy to speed up, but I just wanted to know that. All right. So I
won't interrupt.
Go ahead and skip this slide. We've talked about the idea behind it, but really what the idea about it is, when you have someone who's nurturing, keep giving them value. And if you don't have value pieces to do, you know, get with me, get with Barry, get with other people. Like one of the things I give is a 75-point checklist. It's a real simple thing. These are the 75 things that you need to do before you take pictures for your house. That works whether I'm FSBOing or where I'm doing something else. So I wanted to just talk real quick about the listing presentation. These are literally the steps that I use during the listing presentation. I'm going to skip most of them until we get to the part that really is applicable to Ylopo, but I did want to cover point number 2, because I think point number 2 is something that people don't do. And I actually had someone go with me on a listing appointment about a month ago, and they said, wow, you really believe in that take control part? And I say, I do. Now, here's the thing. If you're, you know, this house was an $800,000 house. Now in my market that I'm in, Colorado, that's actually, it's kind of average, which makes my head hurt, because my other market, my average sales price is 200. But my point is, this is a regular guy, and I walked in and I took control. What I mean by that is, when you walk into a listing presentation, you're about to ask somebody to sign a contract to give you, in that case, let's see, to give me $48,000. Do I want to give $48,000 to somebody who shows up and doesn't know what they're doing? So the Ylopo stuff is so important to take us to the next level, but this is the base level as far as I'm concerned. If I'm going to give you $48,000, you need to show some value. And the first value that you need to show is you know what the heck you're doing. So when I walk in, my thing will be like this: Barry, it's really great to meet you today. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take my bag and I'm going to go I carry a bag. It has my computer and my presentation in it. I'm going to go put this on your table. And then you give me a quick tour of the house. I've said that, I don't know how many times. And I don't know that maybe 1 out of 500 times somebody says to me, you know what, I don't want to do that. That's fine. I'll know how to deal with that guy, but I can take that 1 out of 500 times. The other 499, they go, okay. And they do exactly what you ask them to do. And by the way, later I'm going to tell them to sign a contract. I want them to know that their job is to listen to what I have to say. Now, it's not quite that aggressive, but my point is that we have to make sure that you take control. Are you going to go buy a brand new car from the guy who goes, I'm not sure where the key goes. Where's the button for the trunk? I don't know. How do I open up the hood? I don't know. But that's what we're doing when we walk into a listing presentation and go, what do you want me to do? So have a plan, follow that plan, and take control. So anyway, I do a walkthrough. I do a CMA. A lot of people will do a CMA afterwards. My opinion is get that out of the way, because really they've come up with a value. You might as well have that discussion on the front end. So get the CMA out of the way. And then this is an ad that literally shows up, not this exact one, but one very similar to this is going to show up inside my listing presentation. And then I have numbers that go with it. I have impressions and different things like that. Why am I doing this? Because this allows me to transition into the next slide, hopefully coming the other direction. It allows me to create the seller report. So I just put this in there so you guys can get an idea what I'm doing for a seller report. So this house, for example, that I did this seller report on was 3,473 square feet. So I used between 3,000 and 4,000 square feet for the thing. So you can see it on the MLS sheet. This is the actual MLS sheet for this house. We knew that we wanted to list this house for 370. So I did prices between 340 and 400. Here's the thing. In your database, mine's big. I've got over 50,000 people in my database. So if this gives you 2 buyers, spread your stuff out. Make your square feet a little bit bigger. Change your bedrooms and bathrooms. Change your estimated pricing, whatever it is. If you can just fiddle with it, spend 10 minutes moving those numbers around so that you can get a little bit better numbers on the next form. So go ahead, Barry. All right, because this is what I'm going to talk about. And again, Howard pointed this out earlier. A lot of you are not going to have 157,000 people looking at your ads. I understand that. But guess what? If that number says 8,000, that's better than the last guy who was in there. So those are good. My numbers are pretty high on that. But again, I've been with Ylopo. Apparently I was one of the first 20 clients is what Howard told me. So I've been with Ylopo for a while building this database up. So this is what's coming for y'all if you continue to stay with Ylopo, I guess is my point. But, I love this thing right at the bottom of the page where it says, within 10 miles of 827 East Atlanta Drive in Rogers, there are 40,000 people who are likely to move and versus other people who literally, and here's the thing, when you're telling this to a seller, they know this happens. Unlike most real estate agents, they're going to advertise to their 200 friends. And by the way, 182 of them are real estate agents. So the reality is, who are they really advertising to? I'm going to advertise your house to 40,000 people who are likely to move sometime in the next 6 months. Where do I get that data from? I get it from my marketing company that provides it for me, and they do all the work. By the way, Ylopo is my marketing company. So I say that all the time during my presentation. Guys, I'm not a marketing genius, but I know how to hire people who are. Use that over and over and over again. So this is just an example of what it looks like. I love the stages. I point this out in every listing presentation. Guys, we actually have 6 stages that we're going to use. 6, not 5. We have 6 stages that we're going to use. When we put your house new on the market, we're going to run one ad. If for whatever reason we're going to do an open house, we're going to run a different ad. After 30 days, I'm going to change up the ad again. If we do any kind of price reduction, I'll change the ad again. And then after 60 days, I'll change it again. So I'm not just going to slap your house on the market on my personal Facebook page the day that we list the house and then call you 6 months later and ask you to do a price reduction. I've got an active marketing plan that happens all throughout this thing. And it changes because we know that people get what we call ad fatigue. So after a certain period of time, they can't see the same ad over and over again. So we've got it built in. How does this work? I don't know. I just plug the information in the computer and my marketing company does this. If you're not using the phrase my marketing company, I think you're making a mistake, because I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there might be 5 people in the country who actually have a marketing company who are real estate agents. So this is our marketing company. Next. I like this one too. Basically, we're just looking at, we have the most cutting edge market, and these are some of the people that we're specifically targeting. So, depending on the house, I might talk a little bit differently about that. But again, we've done the research on your house, and we're going to target the people who are most likely to buy your house. Next. This is my favorite one. And seriously, if you don't bring anything else to a listing presentation, bring 672 people are interested in buying your house that are currently in my database actively looking. So, and that looks like this, and it's a tie down. So guys, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to literally, when I leave this, when you list your house with me, that was an embedded command for all your NLP guys. When you list your house with me, the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call, email, text, all these people, these 672 people, and let them know that your house went on the market. I don't know for a fact that no one else is doing that, but I feel pretty confident that every other agent they've talked to didn't tell them that they had 600 people. And here's the thing, we said this at the beginning. If you have 15 people that you can send this house to who have made a legitimate inquiry, that's great. Remember, it only takes one person to buy a house. If you could literally show 15 people somebody's house the day it went on the market, how excited would they be? They're going to be really pumped about that. We don't need thousands of people.
No, I agree. And it's if it's a small number, make a big deal of it. If it's a big number, make a lesser deal of it. You got to make it believable, because when you do get a big number in these reports, it's hard to digest from the consumer side. And the seller, this is called the seller report, that what Brian's going over. And honestly, it works great for listing presentation. It works great for expireds and FSBOs. And we are going to be splintering it up. So because we're recording this, I just want to mention that there's going to be 2 versions of something like this. One will be for your listing presentations, and then another one will be specifically designed around what a expired or a FSBO, what they want to see. So similar data, but presented very, very differently so that we can use it in different ways.
And that's awesome. So remember this about a seller. What does a seller want? A seller wants a buyer. I mean, I don't want to make it a big complex question. The thing a seller wants is someone to buy their house. So if you give them a list of people who might buy their house, you are literally giving them what they asked for. If you go to the next slide, you'll see the scripts that I use. So, and I like tie downs, guys. If you're not using tie downs, use tie downs, because it may sound salesy as Barry and I sit and talk about this, but unless somebody's in sales, they would never even catch the fact that I did a tie down here. Could you see how access to our database could help you sell your house? If you choose to work with us, the first thing I would do is text, email, video text all these people, 672 who met the criteria for your house. How does something like that sound to you? If somebody says that that's no good, I don't know what to do with that information. It's the same thing. The number one objection that I hear when I go on expireds is, my agent never showed my house. My agent didn't market it. My agent basically put a sign in the yard and waited for somebody else to sell it. This is active marketing, and this is a demonstration of active marketing. And heck, you could, if you're smart, if you're doing a drip for these 672 people in this scenario, you're including the seller in that drip too. So they see that they're getting something like that. So they know that that showed up in front of their client, in front of other people as well.
I'm sorry, I got to answer 2 questions. One person was, how do you contact those people if the names are blurred out? those names are just blurred out to protect the innocent. They are from your database. So you have all those names. They're not blurred out in your CRM. They're just blurred out for privacy reasons for other people. And then also, can you share the CMA program that you use for your listing presentations? This is great. Well, guys, we're showing you like all that stuff we just showed you, you own. Okay, it's part of the Ylopo Listing Rocket program. There is a one-touch report for your listing presentation. So you've got it, you own it, and if you don't know how to use it, then you need to reach out to support@ylopo.com and talk to your account manager, or private message Brian Curtis at 2 a.m. Mountain Time.
Feel free. I won't answer, but feel free. So, my do not disturb goes on at 9 p.m. You can text me. I don't care. It's do not disturb. I won't even know about it until I wake up at 5 o'clock the next morning. So feel free.
Here's the button.
There you go.
This is where it is, right here in Mission Control. This generates that page, and this spits out a spreadsheet with all the information. So if there's 600 buyers, here they're grayed out on purpose. Here, they get all the contact info and everything is given. So if you want to upload it to a dialer or MailChimp or anything like that.
And if you're not,
I would say you guys have about 7 more minutes to get to like 3:15. I think I can move my thing from an hour to 45 minutes. The next presentation is how you can make money forever. Kind of a good one.
No one's going to be interested in that, Howard.
No one's interested in that.
All right. So here's the thing about Diva to me. My main market is in Northwest Arkansas. So we drive out to a lot of rural houses. Do not count on internet access if the crux of your presentation is how amazing my Diva ad is going to be, and then you can't get it to play on your computer. You look like an idiot. So I would do this. I would get a Diva ad and I would screenshot it and then save that to your iPad and just hit play. Have it queued up, and bam, you look like a genius. It never breaks. You don't have to worry about trying to get the internet to do this and do it. Just have it pre-programmed. Guys, some of this stuff is a dog and pony show. It's okay. The seller doesn't expect you to be able to do everything live right there on time. So do that. And here's the thing. Video gets 7 times the exposure of a regular ad. You need to say that to your seller. Guys, my main thing when I do marketing, I'm not telling you I can sell your house, but I promise you one thing. There will not be a single person in our market who's interested in your house that doesn't know it's for sale. And that's really all we can do. We don't sell houses. Like, I don't walk in and convince Barry to spend $300,000 on a house he doesn't like. That's not what we do. We market houses to get more bodies in the front door. Diva ads get more bodies in the front door, and they make your sellers very happy because we get to send them a report about the Diva ad. Go ahead and hit the next one. So because I do that, I can show them this. I can show, and my eyeballs aren't nearly as good as they used to be, so I'm going to make this bigger on my screen so I can see it. But that's not going to work. So basically, you're looking at, thank you, Barry. So you're looking at, we've got 11,000 people who saw your ad, 2,800 people who looked at your video. These are real numbers. Understand that the majority of people, let's talk about some objections that we get, generally speaking, from a seller. You didn't do anything to market my house. Really? Because I got in front of 11,000 people this week, or 90, whatever that number happens to be. When you're sending your seller this report, how many times do you hear, Brian, you're not doing your job? Very little compared to what I used to do, which was, really, I hope that house sells, and I really hope the seller doesn't call me to ask me why it hasn't. We've all done that, but why not be proactive? Send them something that's actually showing what's happening with their house literally every single week. This house here, is under contract, but what a great thing. Remember, the major thing that people complain about is that my agent didn't market my house and my agent didn't communicate with me. This one report solves both of those objections right there. It's so, so valuable.
And by the way, when your seller is really happy with you because you're communicating with them, you're showing them the Herculean effort that you're applying, you're spending your own dollars to market their home, you're not just putting on the MLS, they are much more likely to tell their friends who are also thinking about selling their home, you should list with Brian or you should list with Barry. But, to boil it down, do 2 things, right? I mean, you gotta do 3 things. Like, one is like, they just have to like you. Like, that's important, right? You gotta have a report.
Kind of basic, yeah.
So again, hear them, listen to them, let them talk about themselves. But then number 2, show them what you're going to do and literally tell them every other agent's going to show you all the stuff and they're just going to put you on the MLS and wait for the phone to ring. I'm not. I'm going to spend my money. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I did the last time. Look at this, right? And number 3, oh, by the way, and then you show them the next page, I already have the buyers for your home. Done. What percentage of the time are you going to win that listing presentation? 100% if you do those three things.
Absolutely. You know, again, what are they looking for? They want value. You have to show them value. Go ahead, Barry.
Well, and you know, big idea, this is all the cool stuff that happens because you're running the Diva ad. Big idea, video marketing is, the reach is farther because nobody's doing it. So your numbers are going to look amazing. Middle of it, you know, is a quick snapshot. There's a subtlety there. Look at 9,000 people saw the house and people are selling their home. Maybe we need to do a price reduction. We don't put that anywhere, but that's an easy segue. And down here, we took what's cool about the List Hub reports, if anybody knows about those, you know, to where it shows you how people are engaging your listing. And we made it like a Ylopo one, how they're engaging, how many people I've emailed the listing to. Listing alerts. It collects that. How many people have seen your listing on my website? Every time it shows up on a lead, we count that. Every time they click their listing on our website, we count that. So it's a great way to keep your job. And that was really what we were trying to do, was take what you did, which was so amazing, and you bought Ylopo and you ran the Diva listing rocket. You got all this exposure. Okay, well, it's not valuable really unless I can communicate that effectively to the homeowner. And that's exactly what this does. And so this is called the seller marketing report, and you pull it up next to the Diva listing ad. So, Brian, I'm hijacking for a second, but
remind everyone that there's two different reports, and that's really important because we got someone chiming in like, I don't have this, but they have it. But we have the listing presentation report, right? And then we've got the seller marketing report, two different presentations.
This is the seller report. And then when you run, notice how I'm on dynamic video and mission control. I've got these two dynamic video ads running right now. When I want to go to my seller and tell them how awesome I am, all I do is go to generate, and I can either do the PDF or the HTML. I prefer the HTML because it'll actually show them the video. But this is where you would pull it. You can also pull it by clicking View Ads, and Generate Seller Marketing Report is also there.
Yeah, and this is key, guys. Like, it's so important to share with your seller what you're doing. And I love Howard's point. By the way, if your seller likes you and somebody asks them about them, and if they have concrete things to tell that their friend, their brother, whatever, how much better it is that? So, you know, the average agent who did a good job and got the house sold, what'd you like about your agent? I don't know, he got my house sold, it was really great. How about the average agent who uses the Diva? Well, he ran these video ads and he sent me a weekly report and he did all this stuff. It was really cool. People like to tell their success stories, but we have to give them something to talk about. So don't be afraid to send these things to your seller. And by the way, it costs $65 to run a Diva ad. And think about that. If you're not willing to spend $65 to market a house, you either shouldn't be listing that house or you should be getting out of this business. We get paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Spend $65 and run a Diva ad on your thing.
And by the way, guys, when you're running listing rocket Diva ads, guess what? There's other people in that area who are seeing you running those ads. They're like, oh, I want those video ads on my home. And guess what? They'll contact you to be the listing agent. All right, you know, jab, jab, what do you say? Right hook?
Jab, jab, left hook. Yeah, guys, this is all works together. And that's one of the things that I love about this system. It's not one thing does one thing does three things. And it all has a synergistic effects. And over time, it gets you exposure and it makes you look like a rock star. And it makes you look like the rock star that you already are. So we'll finish up with this. I've got like 30 seconds, so I don't want to do that. Spend too much time.
Minus 60 seconds, Brian.
All right, HomeBot. Use HomeBot once we get it set up. Just set up all your past clients on it. Why? Because you're going to help your lender get refis because it's a cool report. I don't know how else to say that. It's interesting to look at, and that's what I love about HomeBot versus, say, Market Snapshot from 15 years ago. Market Snapshot had good information, but it was boring. HomeBot is interesting, and people really like it. So with that in mind, definitely use Boom and BombBomb and Loom, and I'm out.
Awesome. That was phenomenal. That was absolutely phenomenal, Brian. We are not worthy. That was really, really great.
Very, very good.
I mean, you guys can see you know, why Brian is a Rockstar coach, why he's a Ylopo professor. Just this was really, really an awesome session. Both Barry and Brian, my hat's off to both you guys. Really cool. And I think, you know, I'm really inspired. Like, we're just going to have an amazing seller and listing presentation, you know, when we do the live summit, because HomeBot will have been working. We'll be fine tuning that. So good stuff, guys. Really, really good stuff. Thank you.
Appreciate
Brian, I learned a lot too.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys. Hi, G. And thanks,
you, Brian.
everybody.
I learned that 50%, which I don't believe, of all people walking into an open house are sellers. No, I might believe it, but that's awesome. I'm stealing that one.
Well, so I stole it from you, though. You said 50% of buyers are also sellers. So I'm figuring.
Oh, that's true. I didn't know that 50% of everyone that walks into, that's true. I guess you're right. But yeah,
Same math.
We're moving on. All right. So